Um,
Thank you.
Great. So, coming up next, we are going to talk a bit about Scarf's product and our product roadmap. But I guess, just to do the next introduction here, the team at Scarf has been growing and expanding quite a bit over the last few months. And one of the hires I've been very, very excited about is bringing on our fearless engineering leader, Aaron Porter, who is someone who I worked with at a past life back at Pandora, where he led the technical operations org at Pandora. And I think, someone who I talked to about Scarf very, very early on in the journey when it was a totally, totally different thing, back when we were first getting going. And I think it's just been really incredibly exciting to see our team really grow and flourish. And we have a lot of great stuff to build, and with Aaron at the helm, it's been going very effectively. And so I will turn it over to Aaron to talk a little bit about our roadmap and what we've launched recently.
Excellent. Let's see. I think that's working. Hey, yeah, like Avi said, thanks for the intro, the very flattering intro. Avi's pretty good at keeping my ego pumped going through this stuff. Been with Scarf for about 5 months, and I get the joy and glee with my personality to open my presentation by correcting my boss. Avi said that we did half a billion last quarter. We did half a billion last month, Avi. So like
Right. Yes, I misspoke.
it's
Thank
an
you. Thank
important
you. Yeah.
inflection. Like Q2 at Scarf has been like pretty crazy. It really felt like, this was one of those kind of graduation moments where like Scarf has kind of become critical infrastructure for a lot of different tools and projects in the open source community. Like Avi said, over half a billion tracked events last month alone. Like the adoption and the usage on our gateway and on our telemetry endpoints is just skyrocketing, and it's super super cool. So I was going to walk through today a couple of things of what's been going on at Scarf, what we're working on, and hopefully be able to explain what that's going to mean to you all and how it's going to make your lives better, and then quick wrap up with some of the stuff that we've got coming in the next quarter or the maybe bleeding into the quarter after that, because deliverables are difficult. We spent a lot of time in Q2 doing like kind of a ground up redesign of Scarf's data architecture, migrating away from a traditional relational database. We'd been built on Postgres for years, and moving towards more of a real-time column-oriented data architecture that we've built on top of a tool called ClickHouse, that just really allows us to, dramatically expand the capacity for real-time analytics by sharding, replicating, and scaling vertically as well. For since the beginning, Scarf had a really interesting approach to how to handle like massive amounts of high cardinality data. We would Scarf developed this concept of data aggregates where we would almost pre-process all of the log event data, enrich it, but then summarize it. This was really kind of a very forethought idea, because as the data scaled on the way in, we still kept very predictable, very linear response time. It meant that a customer that had 1,000 events would get the same query response time as a customer that had 100 million events. Uh, it was really, really strong, but it was also incredibly brittle, because anytime that we wanted to add a new element, anytime we wanted to enable a new filter, anything like that, we had to kind of go back to the beginning of that aggregation process, pick a window which we wanted to allow people to apply that change, and then reprocess and roll forward. It was strong and stable, but it wasn't really flexible, and it was definitely hitting our developer velocity. When we moved to the column-oriented approach earlier this quarter, there was a lot of learnings, right? Like, it's SQLite, but we had to go back and rebuild almost all of the backend queries. Uh, it was really nice that we were able to, kind of plug into our data pipeline and run both systems in parallel for a good amount of time. Uh, we were able to sit and look at, individual query performance time, and as we were rolling this out, all of a sudden, instead of querying these aggregate tables, we were actually running these queries directly on raw event data. The downside for us so far has been that query time is not really predictable, depending on the size of the data set, the window you're querying, the number of events, but the flexibility has just been glorious. It really has just been an entirely green field for both the product and the engineering team to look at the data that we're collecting for our customers and figure out like what can we extract from it, how can we slice it, how can we present it in a more useful way. Uh, so sorry, I forgot my transition slide here. I don't have the excuse that I haven't looked at them, but I'm also coming back from vacation and feeling a little bit under the gun for this. Another big focus for us this quarter has been improving our reliability and availability. Like I said at the top, like we recognize that we've become critical infrastructure for projects that implement SCARF. We are customer facing for your customers, and our downtime reflects directly on you and impacts your credibility with your community and your customers. So SCARF from the beginning has supported a multi-region setup configuration for our gateway. We currently run in Asia, North America, and Europe, but we've been enhancing that to operate in multiple availability zones, improve the reliability of the systems in those regions, really beefing up our backend monitoring for trending and alerting so that we find problems before they're customer visible, and enabling new, more sophisticated and transparent routing on our edge networks so that when we have the inevitable operational or software bugs, they're not customer visible either to you as our customers or to your end users either. Our next big initiative from Q2 was data export and partnerships. Like you just heard, like the SCARF adds a lot of value to your data by collating it and enriching it, but the value from the data is when you get to pick it up and digest it and use it where where you're already living. SCARF has supported data exports via API, and I think you heard about the Postgres trigger in the last section, but we've also enabled the ability to schedule data exports to cloud storage. Right now it's AWS S3. I think we're going to be looking at adding some other alternatives pretty quickly. But it enables you to define a schedule and define a data set and dump that out in right now. Most of our customers are using CSV, but I think we could do JSON and other formats as desirable. And then you can pick those up in the tools that you use for your day-to-day BI and in the future, hopefully CRM, to understand, like, to get the full value out of your enriched SCARF data. You can do this today by going in the admin panel, and configuring an export, and then the set of tools that can pick up and digest CSVs. It's pretty limitless, right? It really is the most basic data transfer on the internet, and so the flexibility has been really pretty cool. And we're really hoping that this helps enable our customers to pull the SCARF data into your daily operations and tools. So it's not just our wonderful and beautiful dashboard that we love and want you to use every day, but we understand that the real power of this data is when you get it in your native tools. A frequent complaint that we get, and we feel it too because we do use Scarf as well, is that even though Scarf has the probably the best in the industry performance of matching and identifying traffic to companies, it's still far from perfect. We've all seen odd matches or questionable matches pop up, and so we are enabling through the dashboard the ability to offer Scarf feedback on company and event matches that are presented. We then digest those and feed it back into our matching pipeline, really working to beef up our first party IP matching and reputation data set. But I think this is one of those minor annoyances that everybody feels. And so we're pretty excited to finally be able to offer the ability to collect this feedback and apply it to your data. The final thing that I wanted to talk about from Q2 is after we migrated over to our new column architecture and started running these queries on the raw events instead of the summaries that we'd been building, it really unlocked our ability to do dynamic sorting and filtering of the reports that Scarf presents. So we have the ability now to take your company, or take your pixel traffic and slice it by organization, slice it by region, and we have the ability to persist those queries. So you can save a filter, you can share a filter, and you can apply those filters to your data exports. I think at this point, I am supposed to transition over to another window and give a very brief live demo using the Scarf's data. Cool. So, it really is, I hope, very straightforward, but it delighted us. So I hope you get some joy out of it too. So, coming into Scarf's package insights, we can expand a filter. And, maybe our sales and marketing team wants to do a little bit of outreach. Maybe they're going to a conference and look for the users that have a tech stack that includes the Postgres database. It sorts down from our 15,000 users on this package. What if we want to add a further refinement and say, like, which of these are from the Fortune 500? It's still a pretty impressive group. Maybe it's too many to dig into. And so we can keep stacking these and say, like, which ones of these operate in California? Maybe that's not what we want. So we can invert it as well. And you can understand the flexibility that this brings is just, it seemed game changing to us, right? And by building on top of the exports and tying this all the way through, I think it really does offer some pretty exciting ways to get deeper data out, or deeper insights out of your data. And we're working still to add additional filters in here, from the data that we have. Certainly, package version is one that will be coming very, very shortly. But we're looking at all of the metadata, the custom metadata that we're starting to enable to collect, and all of that will be exposed via the filtering. Cool. That was pretty much it for Q2. It felt like a lot. I hope it's going to resonate with everyone as well. And for Q3, we're going to be continuing to improve our work on data quality, data matching and accuracy, continuing to really invest heavily in our availability and uptime. I've got a target from Avi for 100% uptime on the gateway. We're not there, but we're up for it, and I don't think it's an unrealistic ambition. So pretty excited to see how far we get along that. Continuing to enrich the data that the events that we have with additional firmographics, like the demo I just showed, with tech stack. We're looking at what other data we can add to a company record to help you identify leads, whether that's revenue target, Forbes Global 2000 list, company employee size, just continuing to dig and enrich the events that we have, and then also working on more first-party data integrations. I think we've the CSV exports were great, just because so many people can pick them up and work with them, but getting closer to CRM tools, especially Salesforce and HubSpot, is kind of really our next step in the first-party data integrations. So that's our ambitious Q3. And I guess at this point we pause for questions.
Yeah, the group of this size, if anyone has questions, feel free to just jump in and we'll
Yeah,
pause
and
for
we
a
can
little
go
bit.
pretty wide. It doesn't have to doesn't have to be limited to what we were just talking about. I think you've got Avi and I here. If we can't answer, there
Yeah.
is no answer. So happy to field any Scarf questions.
But maybe not.
Maybe not.
Well, I think maybe one thing that I can, add just to kind of wrap this section up while we wait, if anyone cares to jump in, whether regardless of how you're collecting the data that lands into Scarf, I think we want to make sure that that data is actionable and useful. And, part of that is recognizing that, the data itself, it's noisy and it's not really all that useful on its own. And what makes this stuff useful and actionable is that we are actually teasing out real insights, and that those insights are located in a place where you will actually use them on a, daily or weekly basis. And so, whatever your go-to-market looks like at your business, we want to make sure that Scarf puts the insights where you need them, when you need them, so that, your team can actually use them effectively. And so, whether it's the CRM integrations that Aaron was mentioning, so you can see this data right in, your Salesforce, HubSpot, et cetera, or if that's just slicing and dicing the data directly in Scarf, we want to make sure that those bases are all covered. And to use, I really like Max's analogy about the iceberg, of your open source community. I think, for a long time, historically, just the tip of the iceberg, as Max was saying. Historically with Scarf, it's basically been showing you as much of the iceberg as we can. But now this is much more about literally cutting, slicing, and dicing that iceberg in any way to inspect any given cross section of that iceberg. And that's really, really powerful, I think, for, whether it's answering a question that has just popped up, or something where you're driving very, very specific targeted marketing campaigns, or, outbound outreach campaigns, or these kinds of things. We want Scarf data to fit right where you need them for that process. And so, for folks that are, here right now, or listening after the fact, if there are ways that we can do that more effectively, please drop us a note anytime. And it looks like we do have one question. Have we been collecting data on OpenStack? That's a good question. I think we do have some pieces of OpenStack that are being distributed on Scarf that we might have some info on at a high level, but in general, the way that Scarf tends to work is that the projects will collect data with us, and we will have that data kind of ready to go for them. We do get bits and pieces of this both from third parties. So some of our data partners will, when we get firmographic information back about a given company, we will get some tech stack information. And I don't know off the top of my head if OpenStack is one of those things or not. I'd have to go check, and we can definitely follow up with that. I suspect there are pieces of OpenStack that are being tracked, but probably not, like, we're not working with the OpenStack team directly right now. but the nice thing with things like OpenStack is that you see a lot of other clues about technology that correlates with OpenStack. And so, whether it's like a specific kind of blob storage or a specific kind of, compute hypervisor or whatever that looks like, we do end up seeing bits and pieces and should be able to give you something useful there. So do feel free to follow up with us and we can talk about it a little bit more specifically for whatever your use case is. But I think in general, that's kind of where a lot of this stuff is heading, is that across all the information that Scarf is seeing about open source usage from different companies, we can give you a much richer picture of what your community looks like and what other technology they are using. Yeah. Aaron, I don't know if you want to add anything. I realize I just kind of steamrolled that.
No,
Sorry.
no, that was yeah. You don't get in front of the A team, right?
Cool, cool. Any other questions? If so, we're running really ahead of schedule, and I guess maybe we won't go quite as over as we thought. Anyone? Anyone? All right. Well, okay, I guess so we have another section of this that was not kind of in the originally planned schedule, but I think will still be interesting and hopefully insightful nevertheless. But I think before we jump into that piece, yeah, I do just want to thank everyone again for joining us at this event. I think this will be first of many, so more to come. But in general, I think, we want to be available to any of you that are building open source businesses. We just generally want to hear from you more. What are what's going really well? What's difficult right now? How can this kind of data actually help drive your business operations in a more, in a more effective, streamlined way? That's what we exist to do. And your feedback from the community has been really, really crucial to actually make that happen. Because again, this was all of this stuff, from tracking this kind of data to using it, to being open with your community about the discipline and about sustainability in general, is all pretty new stuff. And so I really, everyone here, I really, really commend all of you for engaging with this kind of, historically kind of taboo topic. And here we are talking about it in a way that a lot of the stuff has been fairly normalized when you see, big projects in the ASF using this stuff. And when you see the entirety of the Linux Foundation, the CNCF, kind of, green lighting this as a practice as well. And so all of that, that normalization would not have been possible without all of the people in the Scarf community that are kind of stepping forward to, get serious and get more professional with this practice of building software out in the open, which I think everyone here agrees is very, very important to push forward and continue if we want to see just a generally more open tech world and tech ecosystem.